He sprints uphill, lungs burning, every step agony. Suddenly, smoke engulfs everything, and a scream shatters the silence. How did an ordinary man become the only hope in hell? To understand how he reached this point of despair, let's go back to the beginning. Hell roars all around, and the hungry flames devour everything, transforming the building into a death trap. Kim Soohyuk breathes the scorching air, feeling the weight of death approaching, hot and humid, on every inch of his sweating skin. Every step through the rubble is a brutal battle, a desperate fight against an end that seems increasingly inevitable. He stumbles violently, his body crying for mercy, as a muffled scream escapes his mask. Kyuk! Black smoke invades his lungs, and his vision begins to fail before the unbearable heat that melts his resistance. With trembling, soot-covered hands, he curses his own fate as the radio crackles. Useless. Damn it! Despair takes over his mind, and he looks at the abyss around him, his voice breaking through the mask. How am I going to get down from the 17th floor? But the will to live burns stronger than the fire. He crawls, whispering through the smoke. I can't just give up. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoes, and the structure above him gives way. Time has finally run out for the hero. Soohyuk's eyes widen, and memories of a lifetime of sacrifices flash before his blurry vision. Outside, the shouts of his comrades echo through the radio. It's insane! We can't go in! It would be suicide to go now! A young firefighter tries to advance, but is held back forcefully by a colleague. Reinforcements are on the way. Let's wait a little longer. The veteran seethes with rage, pushes his colleague, and screams, "What the hell are you talking about? Didn't you hear there's still someone inside?" With a determined look, he ignores the warnings and dryly orders, "You all must stay exactly where you are." Back in the fiery present, Soohyuk's breathing becomes heavy and irregular as he struggles to maintain consciousness. He looks at his empty hands, feels the bitterness of failure, and murmurs a simple, painful no. The weight of the rubble crushes his hope. He feels the final impact on his limbs. My legs. The world around him collapses into a chaos of fire and concrete, burying the firefighter under tons of regret and ashes. His red helmet, a symbol of his courage, rolls across the dirty floor as the light of life begins to fade. Fallen and surrounded by destruction, he laments the lack of resources. Well, it would have been better if we had more men. He notices a civilian fallen just ahead, a victim he couldn't get to safety in time. The man is pale, life rapidly draining from his eyes, leaving only the funereal silence of the burning corridor. In his last seconds, the victim looks at Soohyuk and whispers with deep agony, "Sorry. I'm so sorry." Soohyuk feels his oxygen running out and thinks, "I'll die suffocated or crushed by this rubble. I don't know which is worse." The flames dance before him like hungry demons, ready to consume what remains of his dignity and his soul. Silence finally settles, broken only by the crackling of burning wood and the distant sound of sirens that will never arrive. He reflects on his 10-year career and the many lives he saved, but the ones he lost weigh much heavier. The face of a desperate woman appears in his mind, making him wonder if she felt the same terror he now feels. Two children embracing, frozen by the fear of imminent death, become the final image of his greatest professional and human failure. Tears of blood and sweat stream down as he makes one last desperate plea to the universe. If only I had one more chance. With his last breath, he internally screams against fate. No! If I were reborn as a firefighter. He closes his eyes and makes a solemn promise to the darkness. As a firefighter, I will never make excuses again. The impact is sudden and violent, as if the world were being torn in half by an invisible and powerful force. A strong arm grabs him, pulling him from eternal darkness, back to a noisy and confusing reality. A slap cracks across his face, and a familiar voice shouts with authority, "Hey! You bastard! Wake up!" Songtae glares at the young man furiously and orders, "Kim Soohyuk, get yourself together. This is not a drill." Soohyuk blinks, confused, seeing his mentor's face. "Songtae Young? But I remember being crushed by the ceiling." Shock paralyzes Soohyuk as he realizes the impossible truth. Songtae hadn't died 9 years ago. The mentor's voice erupts again. "Kim Soohyuk, answer me." Instinctively, Soohyuk's body reacts to the command, and he snaps to attention, shouting, Yes. Sangtae puts on his mask and orders, "Don't get lost and follow me closely. We don't have time. We're going in now." Soohyuk looks around and the pieces of the puzzle begin to fit. He remembers this tragic and pivotal incident exactly. The radio on his chest crackles with an urgent message. 5 rescue targets identified inside the mall. Secure the path. Adrenaline courses through his veins as he confirms to himself that what he's experiencing isn't a crazy dream. Before him, the burning mall illuminates the night, the same terrible scene that happened exactly 10 years ago. He recalls that, at that time, almost all civilians were successfully evacuated, but the cost to the team was high. Images of funerals and sad faces of orphaned children flash through his mind, reminding him of the consequences of every mistake made. The face of a grieving man stares at him in his memories, reinforcing the promise he made before dying in the future. Soohyuk adjusts his mask with renewed determination and silently swears, "I'll do anything for them this time." Sangtae notices the hesitation and asks with concern, "Hey, Kim Soohyuk, are you really okay to continue?" Soohyuk responds with absolute firmness, "Yes, sir! Focus on the objective, and let's enter this hell right now." The mentor strikes the air, reinforcing their priority. "Our mission is to find more people on the 7th floor. Let's go." Axe in hand, Sangtae charges through the obstacles, ready to carve a path through the flames and utter destruction. The heat is suffocating, yet Soohyuk feels his body is lighter and more agile than he ever remembered. The axe slices through the resistance, and sparks fly as the 2 firefighters plunge into the heart of the inferno, devouring the building. Sangtae shouts over the roar of the fire, "Here we go! Stay close and don't wander off." Soohyuk battles the strangeness of being in his 26-year-old body, feeling every muscle react with renewed vigor. He looks at the fire and thinks of the children he failed to save. "Just hold on a little longer. I'm coming to rescue you." Suddenly, a floating window appears before his eyes with a clear message. "Mission: save everyone on the 7th floor." The neon glow of the interface leaves him perplexed, looking like something straight out of a video game in the midst of real, dangerous life. Soohyuk pauses for a second, processing the absurd information hanging in the air while the world burns around him. He blinks several times, but the message remains, floating like a sentence or a promise. A quest? Is this real? Doubt floods his mind. What are XP and skill? This is no time for games in the middle of this chaos. He shakes his head to clear the distraction and focuses on the smoke threatening to engulf the corridor they are in. Sangtae yells from the corridor ahead, "Kim Soohyuk, what are you waiting for? Hurry up!" They enter a vast, destroyed area as the mentor orders, "Let's go in. Search every corner carefully." Soohyuk analyzes the size of the sector and feels the pressure mount. Finding 2 people here with a time limit is almost impossible. He tries to force the memories of 10 years ago, but the details of the original incident are blurred by smoke and time. He takes a deep breath through his oxygen tank and orders himself, "Stay calm. You aren't that rookie anymore." He knows Sangtae's instinct might not be enough this time. "I need to rely on my own senses now." Sangtae stops and looks back, finding his subordinate's behavior strange. "Hey, are you following me or not, Kim Soohyuk?" Soohyuk abruptly changes direction, leaving the veteran confused and furious at the obvious breach of protocol. The mentor shouts, losing his patience, "What the hell are you doing? Is that what you learned in Fire Academy?" Soohyuk doesn't stop. He feels something calling his attention amidst the rubble and ignores his immediate superior's fury. He faces Sangtae and speaks with an authority that doesn't match his rank. "Sangtae Hyung, I know what it looks like, but..." His eyes gleam with unshakable conviction through the visor as he pleads, "Please, just trust me this once." Sangtae hesitates, seeing a spark of a veteran in the eyes of the young man who should be nothing more than a frightened rookie. The silence between them is broken by the crack of a collapsing beam nearby, reminding them that time is running out. The mentor sighs and gives in, thinking to himself, "Since when did this kid start calling me Hyung with such firmness?" They race through the dark, smoke-filled hall, where every lost second could mean one less life to rescue. The heat penetrates his bunker gear, and the smell of burning plastic is so vivid that Soohyuk discards any notion of it being a dream. He scans every corner with watchful eyes, searching for any sign of human life amidst the absolute nightmare scenario. Suddenly, a small object on the floor reflects the light from his flashlight, making Soohyuk's heart pound in his chest. He approaches cautiously, kicking aside some debris to confirm what his intuition had already screamed seconds before stopping. His gloved fingers touch the soft leather of a child's shoe. It's a child's shoe. They're close. The certainty that he's on the right track gives Soohyuk the energy he needs to call out to his mission partner. He points to the discovery and shouts, "Sang-tae-hyung, over here! There's someone in this area!" Sang-tae runs towards him, still skeptical, but Soohyuk shows the proof. "Look, I found a child's shoe." The veteran's eyes widen as he realizes the rookie's instinct was right all along, surpassing his own years of experience. Soohyuk pushes toward a jammed door, sensing that the target of his search is right behind that barrier. He breaks open the obstacle, and the flashlight's beam reveals two small, huddled figures. "Found them. They're here." Sang-tae freezes for a brief moment, shocked by the surgical precision with which Soohyuk located the victims in the fiery labyrinth. Soohyuk communicates over the radio with a steady voice. "This is Kim Soohyuk. On the 7th floor. 2 victims found. Unconscious, but breathing." The veteran approaches to help with the transport, still processing how it was even possible. How did he do that? Sang-tae watches Soohyuk carry one of the children and wonders, how can someone on their first mission act with such calm and precision? He notices that Soohyuk moves with the discipline of a war veteran, as if he had lived this rescue before. Soohyuk calls his attention to the imminent danger. "Sang-tae-hyung, this way. Let's get out of this floor quickly." The mentor picks up the other child and confirms the plan. "Right. I'll take the other one and follow you down. Let's go." Soohyuk looks at the exit and feels the weight of responsibility. "All right. Let's escape this fire as fast as possible." They push through the corridor where flames now lick the ceiling, creating a vault of fire above their weary heads. Each step is a battle against gravity and heat, as they protect the children with their soot-covered bodies. Soohyuk feels the extreme exhaustion take its toll. "My legs are trembling and I'm running out of breath." He looks at the stairs and tries to maintain mental focus. Just a little more. We're almost at the ground floor. Suddenly, Soohyuk's knee gives out, and he almost falls with the child in his arms, feeling his physical limit approaching. He grinds his teeth and curses the momentary weakness. "Damn it. Please, just hold on a little longer." Sang-tae notices his colleague's struggle and approaches to offer support, preventing Soohyuk from collapsing right there in the heat. The veteran extends his hand and provokes to give strength. "You were all showing off just a moment ago, weren't you?" He grips Soohyuk by the shoulder and shouts with raw encouragement. "Don't give up now, Kim Soohyuk. The choice is yours." Soohyuk looks at Sang-tae's dirt-smudged face and feels a wave of gratitude for having his mentor back by his side. He regains his balance and confirms with a shout, "We're almost there. Let's go down fast." "Yes, sir." The 2 firefighters race down the stairs, defying exhaustion and the flames that try to block the only path to freedom. The smoke becomes less dense as they approach the main exit, indicating that daylight is near. Soohyuk pushes open the last door with what little strength he has left, feeling the fresh air outside hit his face. The sun's brightness is blinding after so long in the darkness of the flames, bringing a relief that almost makes him cry. They emerge from the building like weary heroes, carrying in their arms the future that Soohyuk swore to protect with his own life. The medical team rushes towards them, while other firefighters continue their incessant battle against the shopping mall fire. Soohyuk collapses to the ground and removes his mask, gasping heavily as he tries to recover the oxygen stolen by the fire. He looks at the children being attended to and smiles. "They're safe. I managed to save them this time." The firefighter lies on the cold asphalt, feeling his heart slow down as the adrenaline begins to leave his exhausted system. He lets out a long sigh of relief, closing his eyes for a moment to process the victory over cruel fate. The world around him seems to spin, and a strange tingling sensation courses through his entire body, like a gentle electric current. A familiar notification shines in his vision, confirming success. "You have successfully completed the quest." Soohyuk begins to laugh to himself, a nervous and liberating laugh. "I'm going crazy, but they're alive and that's all that matters." The scene drastically shifts to the facade of a modest residential building under the soft, tranquil light of the next morning. Soohyuk slowly opens his eyes, feeling the comfort of a bed instead of the hard, hot asphalt of the day before. He looks around, confused by the environment that feels strangely familiar, yet distant in his memories. Sunlight streams through the window, and he notices the silence of the room. It's already morning? What's happening? He jumps out of bed with a start upon seeing his reflection in the mirror, looking much younger than he should be. The shock is complete when he recognizes the place. This is the Goshiwon where I lived 10 years ago? He touches his own face, feeling the firm skin and the absence of the scars he accumulated during his long career in the future. The penny finally drops, and reality hits him like a punch to the gut. Yesterday's incident, it wasn't a dream. He looks at his hands and trembles at the possibility. Or am I dreaming of what happened 10 years ago? He decides to accept the situation, regardless of logic. I don't know what it is, but the important thing is that I'm alive. Soohyuk throws himself back on the bed and considers a radical idea. What if I stop being a firefighter? Do I really need to live this again? He feels invigorated by his youth and shouts at the ceiling. At 26, I can do anything. I'm going to live without regrets. He makes a promise to himself about his new destiny. From now on, I, Kim Soohyuk, will live a new life. In the next instant, the information window reappears. Name, Kim Soohyuk. AGE, 26. Level, 5. Rookie firefighter. Soohyuk looks at the floating screen with growing irritation. What kind of disturbance is this now? Won't it leave me alone? He remembers the fatigue of the mission and the reward received, feeling that the system is permanently bound to his soul. A new notification glows with a soft electronic sound, drawing his attention to something he hadn't noticed yet. The mission complete message flashes before him, making him question the exact nature of this strange power accompanying him. The system announces the rewards. Sending rewards. Level 5 reached. Your physical abilities have increased. He feels a sudden surge of strength through his muscles and shouts in surprise. Rookie firefighter rank? What is this? The system details the new advantages. Reduced burn chances. Ability acquired. Danger detection. He tests his movements and notices the real difference. My body really has changed. I don't feel tired at all now. Soohyuk's mind begins to plan future possibilities. If I level up, will I get stronger? Will I gain more abilities? He shakes his head negatively and tries to convince himself. No, I'm going to retire anyway. I need to think about how to live well. He sits at the table and begins to scour his memories for an easy path to wealth and stability. He opens an old notebook with an idea in his head. Do I remember any lottery numbers from that time? Soohyuk walks through the city streets, observing the buildings and cars that seem dated to his mind from 10 years in the future. He looks at real estate flyers and sighs in frustration. Investments? Stocks? I know nothing about any of that. I focus too much on work. The financial reality hits him as he watches the movement of people. I don't have money to invest in anything anyway. He scratches his head, thinking about other possible careers. What are the promising jobs? Maybe get some certification. He sees a happy couple walking by and feels a sudden desire for normalcy. I just want to have a comfortable and peaceful life. He smiles to himself with a new personal life goal. In this life, I will definitely have a happy relationship. But the peace is short-lived when a sharp, strange sound begins to echo inside his head, coming from nowhere. The system triggers a red pulsating alert. Skill, Danger Detection Level 1 activated. Soohyuk cringes, covering his ears from the deafening noise that only he seems to hear. Ugh! My ears! The people around him look at him strangely as he tries to understand what's happening. What was that? He frantically looks around, searching for the origin of the threat the system just identified in the environment. A deep vibration shakes the ground beneath his feet, indicating that something terrible is about to happen on that busy street. A cry of horror echoes down the sidewalk, and someone points upwards. Kyak! A fire! Soohyuk looks at the fireball erupting from a building. On this scale, it can only be a gas leak explosion. A woman screams in despair, pointing to one of the upper windows of the building that is now spewing thick black smoke. Soohyuk follows her finger, and his blood freezes as he sees a silhouette hanging. There's a person up there? Instinct speaks louder than the desire for retirement. He won't survive if he falls. There's no time for the firefighters to arrive. He runs towards a civilian and urgently orders, "Mom, please, call 911, now!" He starts running towards the danger while complaining to himself, "Damn it, I'm off today. Why now?" The sense of duty burns in his chest again, sabotaging his plans for a normal life free from mortal risks. He rips off his jacket as he runs, preparing for what he knows he must do, even against his own will. The internal conflict rages in his mind. A stable life or the arduous path of a firefighter? Are you kidding me? He stops before the burning building and looks at the frightened crowd, realizing he is the only one who can act. He hesitates for a cruel, brief second, thinking, if I just pretend I didn't see this, I could have the life I want. He looks up and sees the victim's despair, knowing that ignoring it would destroy his soul forever, in this life or another. Soohyuk takes a deep breath and makes his final decision, running into the building before the next explosion occurs. He shouts as he plunges into danger. What kind of choice is this? Saving someone by risking my own life? Damn it! The system shines intensely with a final path choice. Path of glory or suffering? Rescue the target now. Soohyuk disappears amidst the smoke, choosing once again the burden of being the hero the world needs. But what awaits him now? Around him, civilians scream in despair as the fire devours the building structure with insatiable hunger. He ignores the heat, searing his skin, and plunges into the thick smoke rising up the stairs. Damn it! He roars as his lungs struggle against the toxic, heavy air. The proposition to abandon the rescue to secure a brilliant future emerges like a poisonous temptation. Images of a peaceful life flash through his mind, a distant, calm dream. But the memory of the losses that haunted him in his first life, miserable and full of pain, pulls him back. He sees the faces of those he couldn't save when he was just an ordinary man. 2 children smile in a photo, a promise of what he swore to protect this time. The reborn hero knows his destiny isn't peace, but a constant struggle against death. On the ground, a fallen victim shows that time is the cruelest enemy of all. He grabs the hand of someone who needs help, feeling the responsibility crush any doubt in his chest. Soohyuk takes a deep breath, sweat dripping as he climbs step by step in the infernal heat. The path of hardship. This is definitely a major one. The dark smoke descends slowly, blocking his vision and making every step difficult. I'm just a rookie who was lucky enough to be here, but what do I do now? He looks at the flames dancing on the walls, knowing that one mistake will be his end. I must be truly going crazy. He thinks about the choice he made, throwing away the chance for a guaranteed life of success. I should have chosen the bright future, but I threw it all away. Doubt hammers his chest, but his feet continue to advance against the danger. But this here is definitely way crazier, he shouts into the void. He grabs a hose, and the water cuts through the heat, clearing a path through the inferno. The system notifies him that his physical abilities have increased after he reached level 5. Great, now I have the strength to put out this damn fire. He focuses on the hose, feeling the water's power respond to his firm command. The floor indicator shows he has finally reached the 16th floor of the building. The corridor is engulfed in flames, a nightmare scenario that would make anyone retreat. He shields his face with a bandana, trying to filter the minimal air that still remains. The heat is so intense it seems to melt reality itself around the firefighter. Soohyuk advances, feeling every beat of his heart echo like thunder in his head. It feels like I'm staring directly into the fires of hell. He knows that even being stronger, a human is still nothing against nature's fury. If there's another gas explosion now, it's game over for me. I need to be fast. He propels himself forward with supernatural agility. Suddenly, a strange vibration runs through the floor, and the ceiling begins to crack. Soohyuk's vision changes, turning bluish as the system detects a mortal threat. He throws himself to the side, the exact moment an explosion tears through the corridor. The impact hurls him against the wall, but he manages to stay conscious by pure instinct. If it weren't for that ability just now, I would have been hit head-on. I sensed the danger before, just like what happened during the gas leak. Adrenaline boils in his veins as he quickly rises from the scorching floor. He spots a fallen figure in the middle of the room, being swallowed by the flames. "It's too hot in here," he screams, feeling the air burn his throat. Sweat drips down his face, but his eyes are fixed on the objective before him. The system confirms the rescue target has been found, and time is running out. "Hey, are you okay? Please, wake up now!" he shouts, shaking the unconscious man. "Damn it! He's completely unconscious! I need to get out of here quickly!" He grabs the civilian's body and hoists it onto his shoulders with incredible strength. The ceiling creaks and sparks rain down on them like a deadly shower of fire. A new maximum danger warning flashes in his mind, indicating the building is about to collapse. Down below, the crowd watches the building spew black smoke against the blue sky. "Look there! High up!" a woman screams, pointing to one of the upper windows. "Someone's falling!" Panic spreads among the civilians watching the scene. Soohyuk leaps into the void, holding the victim with all the strength in his arms. "Get out of the way! What do we do now?" The screams below are deafening. The wind whips his face as gravity pulls them both towards the asphalt. He doesn't close his eyes, focused on finding a foothold amidst the fall. He uses the fire hose as an improvised rope to slow their impact. The friction burns his hands, but he won't let go of the hose for anything in the world. The two swing dangerously against the glass facade of the burning building. The reflection of the fire in the glass creates a scene of absolute chaos around them. The hose stretches to its limit, groaning under the weight of two adult men in midair. Soohyuk grinds his teeth, feeling his muscles scream under the brutal tension of the rescue. He kicks the side of the building to gain momentum and avoid hitting the concrete. Smoke billowing from the windows engulfs them, making it almost impossible to breathe or see. He looks down and sees they are still too far from the ground to let go. Soohyuk's arm feels like it's about to be torn from his shoulder at any moment. He presses the victim against his chest, serving as a human shield against the sparks. The crowd in the street holds its breath, in a silence heavier than any noise. Every second hanging there feels like an eternity of agony and extreme physical exertion. The heat emanating from the building's wall is enough to burn their civilian clothes. He spots an open window a few floors below and decides that's the plan. With a coordinated movement, he begins to swing his body to gain lateral speed. The system pulses in sync with his heart, guiding his movements amidst the despair. At the peak of his swing, he launches himself with all his might towards the opening in the wall. The glass shatters into 1,000 pieces as they burst through the barrier to safety. They tumble across an office floor, far from the direct flames consuming the floor above. Soohyuk releases the hose and breathes in the slightly less scorching air of the room. He checks the victim's pulse, ignoring the radiating pain consuming his own body. The office's silence is broken only by the distant, approaching wail of sirens. He accomplished the impossible, a rescue defying the laws of physics and courage. Soohyuk's hands tremble, but he knows he still needs to get the man out. He looks through the shattered window and sees the blue and red lights finally arriving on scene. The immediate danger has passed, but exhaustion now weighs like lead armor. He slowly gets up, feeling every inch of his skin protest against the movement. Soohyuk carries the man towards the exit, navigating through overturned tables and chairs. He focuses on the stairwell door, praying the path is clear of fire. "Please, hold on," he whispers to the victim, who begins to groan. He kicks a blocked door with all the strength left in his legs. "Break already," he roars as the wood splinters under the impact of his kick. "Ugh, just break, please!" A scream of fury and desperation tears from his soul. The door finally gives way, revealing a corridor choked with dust and debris from the explosion. "I did it," he thinks, as he sees the illuminated emergency exit in the distance. He crosses the threshold and descends the final stairs, far from the inferno's epicenter. Fresh street air hits his face like a divine blessing after the hell he's endured. On the radio, Command Center reports the gas explosion at the Sinildong building. Traffic is a chaotic mess, with cars blocking the path of the rescue teams. Why is there such a delay in reaching a place right in front of us? "Please, move your cars out of the way right now," a firefighter desperately yells. "This is an emergency. Get out of the way." The sirens scream for passage on the avenue. From above, the smoke column serves as a grim beacon for the entire city. "Quick, let's go! Excuse us, let us through. We're firefighters." A woman in the crowd looks at Soohyuk and lets out a gasp of absolute surprise. The newly arrived firefighters can't believe their eyes. "What are you just standing there for? Aren't you going to help?" a veteran shouts. The team advances, but the hardest work has already been done by a single man. Soohyuk collapses to the ground, feeling the weight of the world finally fall upon his shoulders. Huh? He looks up as a familiar blue light shines before him. The system announces that the mission has been completed with absolute and heroic success. He feels a surge of energy as he levels up to 6. "Get lost! Why don't you just disappear?" he complains to the system. The pain in his dislocated shoulder makes him writhe on the cold asphalt. "If I leveled up, shouldn't you restore my stamina too?" He sits in silence, surrounded by shattered glass and the wail of sirens. He looks at the man he saved and feels that all the effort was worth it. That civilian's fate was forever changed by the hands of the reborn firefighter. He tries to stand, using what's left of his iron will. It's not over yet. He knows the building still poses risks to everyone there. There have been 3 explosions so far, and the structure could collapse at any unexpected moment. I'm getting tired of these damned stairs all the time. I really don't have a single drop of strength left. Even with his increased stats, he has reached the absolute limit of the human body. He wonders why he always ends up in these life or death situations. Finally! He spots his uniformed comrades coming his way. "I found them! There are 2 people here who need immediate rescue." So this is what it feels like to be saved. It's an incredible sensation. The building burns in the background, as the teams finally take full control of the scene. Later, in the base office, the sound of mouse clicks fills the silence. Soohyuk stands, dressed in his orange uniform, awaiting his boss's judgment. "So you just happened to rescue someone on your day off?" Gohan-san, Team 3's leader, glares at the young man with an icy, authoritative gaze. "Do you by any chance think you're some kind of movie hero, kid?" He points to the computer screen where a video is playing on loop. Soohyuk looks at the image of himself hanging from the building and feels a chill. The video titled Shinildong Explosion already has thousands of views online. Comments are calling the mysterious man Spider-Man and praising his insane bravery. Hansan doesn't seem even slightly impressed by his subordinate's sudden fame. People are asking how he managed to hold an adult with just one hand. The internet is in shock, saying that what he did is impossible for an ordinary person. "Why are you acting like you did something good? You ignored all the rules. The media even revealed that you're a firefighter. Do you want to get chewed out first thing in the morning? Where in the hell did you come from? This isn't a joke, understood? Anyway, make sure you take full responsibility for what you caused today. I won't help you with this incident. Be prepared for the consequences. Do you have anything else to say? You can leave if you've understood the message." Soohyuk storms out of the room, slamming the door, his blood boiling with indignation. "I can't believe I worked under that guy's orders for 10 whole years. Are you all right?" Song Tae-hyung asks, leaning against the hallway wall. "Yes, I am. But why haven't you gone to the hospital for a checkup yet? Just a few scratches, minor burns, and a dislocated left shoulder. I'm fine." Sangtae looks at Soohyuk with an expression like he's seen a ghost or a monster. He remembers yesterday's scene, when Soohyuk seemed to be on the brink of death. "Sir, please wake up." The paramedic's screams echo in his memory. He saw Soohyuk being carried away on the stretcher, covered in soot and looking completely spent. "I guess men my age are just too tough, right?" Soohyuk jokes, forcing a smile. "Enough small talk, come with me for a minute now," Sangtae orders. "Listen here, kid. Are you really going to keep working in this crazy way? Do you think people will praise you after you ignored all the rules in the manual? Did you see the video? I saved the guy, Song Tae-hyung. That's what matters. It's a relief they're alive, but I wouldn't do that even if I had 10 lives. Was that truly the only method that crossed your mind at that moment? If it weren't for that, we wouldn't even be talking in the afterlife right now." Silence falls upon the corridor as the two stare at each other with different intensities. "Seriously, you're a real troublemaker. You'll have to stick close to me now. And stop calling me Hyung all the time. I'm your senior. Do you know how many years of experience I have in this profession?" Suddenly, the dispatch alarm cuts through their conversation with a shrill, urgent sound. Both snap to high alert. their firefighter instincts speaking louder than their argument. They race down the corridor toward their gear, ready for another day of battle. "Ooh-ah! I haven't even finished my shower yet," a colleague complains. A firefighter watches Soohyuk and Sangtae running like untamed beasts. "You two arrived just in time. Where did Kang-shik get to? I'm right here. Let's go. Time waits for no one." Team 3's truck speeds away from the base, tearing through the city with its blaring sirens. "What's the actual situation?" Soohyuk asks, preparing himself inside the vehicle. "Accident in Shinil-dong Market's underground parking lot. Driver trapped." Soohyuk tries to search his past life's memory, but can't recall this call. What has destiny prepared for him in this parking lot? He thinks that if he can't remember, perhaps the incident was minor or resolved without any major tragedy that day. It would be best to finish this quickly, since the difficulty level seems low and he urgently needs to level up. Soohyuk feels that with each evolution, his body changes and his firefighter abilities become much sharper and more efficient. He wonders if the danger detection he used in the building is the peak of what the system can offer right now. Without these new powers, surviving what he faced in the past would be an impossible dream to achieve in this life. Now, he's eager to participate in the rescue and discover what happens if he keeps accumulating experience through the system. The silence inside the truck is cut only by the thoughts of a man carrying the future and its tragedies. The sirens rip through the city air, a cry of urgency that only firefighters and rescuers truly understand. Suddenly, the vehicle brakes sharply into the chaos of the incident, and the team leaps out. Every second could cost a life. The scene is pure destruction, with police pushing back onlookers as the blue car, a heap of twisted metal, still exhales dense smoke. Sangtae-hyung inquires about the driver, and the police officer's expression forebodes the worst. The man lies unconscious, his legs trapped under the vehicle's twisted dashboard. Without a second to lose, the veteran commands with a firm voice, "Did you hear me? Prepare the hydraulic spreader right now to get this man out." The team responds in chorus, rushing to grab the heavy equipment that will tear through metal like paper. Soohyuk positions himself, a wave of relief washing over him, knowing it's not a hopeless situation, feeling that another life can be saved today. But suddenly, a harsh voice cuts through his actions, and he freezes, not understanding what's happening. He blinks in confusion, asking his colleague to repeat the words uttered with such authority and aggression. The tension between the two firefighters grows amidst the wreckage, drawing doubtful glances from the other rescuers. Jung Woo-hyung glares at him with contempt, firing mercilessly. "Didn't you hear? I told you to step back right now, you idiot!" The veteran continues his attack, accusing Soohyuk of ignoring the corporation's rules and manuals. "I don't need people like you here, so get out of my way and don't hinder the rescue." The words hit Soohyuk like a blow, and he recoils under his colleague's cold, disappointed gaze. What? Is he really telling me to leave in the middle of an important rescue? Soohyuk remains paralyzed, trying to process why Jungwoo is treating him like a mere nuisance. He doesn't understand this abrupt change, as in his past life, their relationship was one of respect and friendship. He recalls Jungwoo asking about work, and him replying that everything was under control at the beginning of his career. Jungwoo would smile, offering valuable advice for him to take care of himself and prioritize his health. Back then, Soohyuk thanked him wholeheartedly, feeling he had a true mentor by his side to face the flames. The veteran always inquired if there were difficulties, always ready to help. "If you continue like this, you'll have no problems. If you have any doubts, just ask me anytime, understood?" Those warm memories contrast with the icy reception he now gets from someone he once called a brother in uniform. The hydraulic spreader arrives, and Soohyuk realizes that Jungwoo was the only person who never criticized him in the past. But now, standing before him, the man seems like a complete stranger, someone he never truly knew. The team prepares to act, and the command echoes to force open the door of the crumpled vehicle. They grip the tool tightly, as the metal groans, fighting against the twisted steel of the blue car. Soohyuk feels a strange uneasiness in his chest, but the shout of, "Open it now," drowns out all his doubtful thoughts. He can't just watch from afar while his comrades fight to save a life. In an instinctive move, he tries to get closer to help, but gets an aggressive shove from a colleague. Soohyuk pauses for an instant, wiping the sweat from his face, trying to maintain focus on what truly matters. Finally, they create enough space on the driver's side to access the victim, who remains unconscious. "We're almost done!" shouts one of the firefighters, and the car's structure gives way under the hydraulic pressure. With the door removed, the stretcher is rushed in to extract the man before a fuel leak occurs. Sangtae guides the group to lift the body carefully, counting to 3 to synchronize everyone's effort. The weight is distributed among the rescuers, who move the victim with the precision of those who do this every day. The rescue seems an absolute success, and the tension begins to lessen among the civilians observing from afar. Suddenly, Sangtae loses his patience with Soohyuk. "What are you dawdling for? Help carry this stretcher right now." The other firefighters breathe a sigh of relief, commenting that, by sheer luck, nothing more serious or explosive occurred. One of them smiles, thanks everyone for the good work, and suggests they clean everything up to finally go rest. The atmosphere lightens, and a sense of duty fulfilled washes over the exhausted Sinil Station team. But Soohyuk feels something isn't right, as if a vital piece of the puzzle is missing. His colleagues start to say their goodbyes, putting the heavy tools back into the truck as the sun dips below the horizon. Jung-woo doesn't even look back, completely ignoring the presence of the rookie he humiliated in front of everyone. Soohyuk sighs, realizing the veteran is furious with him for breaking protocol. But what truly intrigues him isn't the bad blood, it's something far more bizarre and invisible. He looks at the destroyed car, thinking it's a relief everything seemingly ended well. But then, in the very next instant, a detail in the system makes his blood run cold instantly. Wait a minute, why hasn't the mission window appeared, confirming I finished the rescue? He stares into the void, waiting for the blue notification that always appears, but the system's silence is absolute and worrying. The Save Everyone mission remains active, warning him that there are still injured individuals waiting for rescue in that gloomy parking lot. There's an additional requirement he's unaware of, and the limited time is ticking mercilessly against him. One of the firefighters comments he's going to wash his hair, bothered by the acidic soot. Suddenly, veteran Kang Shik stops and asks where that troublemaking kid Soohyuk disappeared to. Sung Tae-hyung lets out a shout that echoes through the entire underground garage, furiously calling the protagonist's name. "You punk! Didn't I tell you to follow me and obey my orders without question?" Soohyuk stares at him with a serious expression, ignoring the scolding to focus on the danger he still feels in the air. He asks the veteran if he's absolutely sure they only needed to rescue one person from that vehicle. The description of the hydraulic spreader flashes in his mind, reminding him of the tool's brutal crushing power. The mission glows before his eyes. Save all rescue targets before their time runs out. It's not just about a generic target. The system is specific about the existence of someone else in extreme danger. When the accident was reported, they said one victim had already been taken away, leaving only the trapped driver. Soohyuk shouts to Sangtae that they need to search the surrounding area again, because something is very wrong here. Jung-woo approaches, irritated, saying they already checked everything before the rescue and found absolutely nothing suspicious. "Let's get out of here, Sangtae. We don't need someone who just ruins teamwork like this." Soohyuk doesn't back down and throws out the fatal question. What if there's someone else trapped that we didn't see? He questions what Jung-woo will do if a death is reported by forensics after they return to base. Jung-woo loses control and snarls, "Don't call me young! A firefighter doesn't act on instinct without real proof." He throws it in the rookie's face that hierarchy and procedures exist for a reason and must always be respected. Jung-woo's gaze overflows with hatred, as if Soohyuk is offending the entire honor of their profession with his assumptions. Soohyuk tries to plead for just a little more time, assuring them he's not disrespecting any superior present. But Jung-woo interprets this as a direct affront, and the argument attracts the curious attention of the civilians. He accuses Soohyuk of only doing questionable things ever since he was transferred to this elite rescue unit. "Get in the truck now, Kim Soohyuk. That's a direct order from your superior," the furious man bellows. Even in the face of the order, the young man insists on staying, knowing that leaving now would mean leaving someone behind to die. He feels frustrated that he can't talk about the missions and system windows only he can see. It's then that an idea sparks in his mind. He forgot he recently learned a crucial new skill. While the others call him an idiot, Soohyuk realizes he's in a dead end and needs to act now. He takes a deep breath and activates the skill, Life Detection, Level 1, and the world around him changes completely. Waves of green energy emanate from him, piercing through walls and cars in search of any sign of a heartbeat. His colleagues watch him, standing still, not understanding why he closed his eyes amid the confusion and noise. The energy spreads through the underground parking lot, mapping every person present within that 10-meter radius. Soohyuk feels immense relief as he realizes the system's power is working perfectly within his mind. He begins to feel the heartbeats of everyone around him, counting them one by one with surgical precision. The system confirms 13 people detected within the skill's range, beating at different rhythms and full of life. He opens his eyes and quickly counts the people he can physically see at the scene. He counts the police officers, fellow firefighters, and the few civilians still nearby. The result is terrifying and revealing. The number of detected heartbeats is greater than the number of visible people. Soohyuk desperately shouts at Sangtae that they need to find the target hidden somewhere in the car. The veteran stares at him with a mix of shock and doubt, seeing the real, genuine desperation in the rookie's eyes. Soohyuk pleads for trust, and Sangtae sees in those eyes the same determination he had when he saved the burning building. Even reluctantly, the veteran decides to give him one last chance. We might have missed something. Let's search around again. Soohyuk feels a weight lift from his shoulders as he rushes to start the frantic new search through the wreckage. If you understand the order, move fast and scour everything. Sangtae commands the rest of the confused team. Soohyuk climbs on boxes and peers over metal structures, but the first place he checks is completely empty. Suddenly, a black shadow leaps from the darkness, startling him so badly he almost falls. A cat meows loudly and scurries between the tires, revealing itself to be just an animal frightened by the rescue's noise. The team stops, looking at Soohyuk in deadly silence. Exhaustion and irritation resurface. Sangtae snorts in anger, feeling like he was made a fool of by the young man in front of all his subordinates and the police. You better be very careful if you don't find anything after this little show you put on, he threatens. They ask if anyone else found anything suspicious, but negative responses come from all corners. Kangshik appears, panting, and confirms he also found no signs of another human victim in the underground lot. Sangtae demands an immediate explanation, but Soohyuk keeps murmuring that it's impossible, that someone is nearby. He feels the person is very close, but the dark, debris-filled environment makes exact location difficult. The police confirm they've already checked up to the entrance and that the tow truck has arrived to clear the road. Jungwoo gloats, saying the job is over, but Soohyuk begs them to wait just a little longer. Enough! The search is officially over. We are returning to the fire station right now, Sangtae declares with authority. He tells the team to head to the vehicle and warns Soohyuk they'll have a very serious conversation back at base. A colleague tries to comfort the young man, saying they did their best and it's time to go. The tow truck operator complains that the front of the car is so crushed they can't hook it up. He suggests to his partner that they hook it up by the trunk at the back to finally remove the vehicle. Soohyuk's eyes widen and he lets out a scream of terror as he realizes what he had overlooked. He rushes towards the car with a speed that leaves all the other firefighters in total shock. Soohyuk starts pounding on the trunk, shouting if anyone is inside, as he hears a faint whisper of pain. He hears a child's voice calling for her mother, and his heart races as he confirms he was right all along. Bring the spreader now! They are inside the trunk! He roars with an authority no one dares question. Jungwoo stands frozen and pale, unable to understand how he could have made such a basic mistake of not checking the entire vehicle. The crowd around them begins to murmur, and the tension rises to its maximum level in that cold parking lot. The firefighters move like lightning, positioning the heavy tool to force open the rear lid of the blue sedan. The metal groans and grinds under 20 tons of pressure, yielding millimeter by millimeter before the terrified rescuers. The entire rescue team watches in a trance as the twisted steel finally separates with a dry, violent snap. "It's open!" one of them shouts, and the metallic, strong smell of fresh blood invades everyone's nostrils. Horror takes over the face of the firefighter who looks inside, recoiling from the scene his eyes behold. Inside, tied and bloody, lies a little girl who seems to have stepped out of a real, cruel nightmare. Confirmation arrives urgently by radio. "Victim found! We need advanced medical support here now!" The little one whispers for her mother with the little strength she has left. fighting to stay alive and conscious. The call for first aid echoes through the emergency channel, mobilizing all paramedics still on site. They report that it is a 10-year-old child, and the situation is extremely critical. "Bring the emergency kit and the hemostatic agent right now to stop this bleeding," the firefighter shouts. Soohyuk holds the girl's hand and promises her she'll be okay, that she'll see her mother very soon. He realizes that the driver was not just an accident victim, but a criminal who kidnapped that poor, defenseless child. The team works in absolute silence now, focused only on keeping that small life pulsing until she reaches the hospital. Sang Tae-hyung looks at Soohyuk from afar, wondering who the hell this rookie is who can see the invisible. Later, the lights of Sinil Fire Station glow under the night sky, but the atmosphere is still heavy. A firefighter enters, complaining that the day was exhausting and he's lost count of how many calls they answered. They discuss whether the latest reports were just mistakes or if someone was seriously messing with the emergency service. Lee Jae-han gets annoyed, saying it's absurd to make prank calls when there are places that genuinely need urgent help. He notices Soohyuk still sitting and asks why he hasn't left if his shift has officially ended. Soohyuk calmly replies that he stayed just to know the outcome of the case, confirming that the rescue was a complete success. But the silence that follows carries a weight that words cannot describe in that moment of exhaustion. Someone whispers the news. The driver was a kidnapper who intended something terrible with the girl in the trunk. The news that she is safe in the hospital brings momentary relief to those men exhausted from the daily war. The superior calls Soohyuk for a private conversation in the room, and the young man stands up, ready for the consequences. The veteran looks at him seriously and begins to talk about the child he saved with his stubborn insistence. He reveals that he received a call confirming that the girl is out of danger and will survive the trauma. Soohyuk's heart leaps with pure joy, feeling that every risk taken today was well worth it. "What an immense relief! I'm so happy to know she's safe and sound," he celebrates with a smile. The chief admits that, although the method was problematic, the final result was extraordinary and saved an innocent life. He instructs him to continue with this dedication, but warns him to try to listen more to superior instructions. Soohyuk thanks him with a respectful bow, feeling that he is finally starting to be accepted as a true firefighter. Outside, the cold night cuts the skin like a razor, and he complains that he should have brought a coat. He waits for a longtime friend and lets out a cry of joy upon seeing Go Sung-woo arrive. "You finally showed up! I thought I was going to freeze to death waiting for you out here, you idiot!" The two toast with glasses of soju at a local restaurant, celebrating their reunion after so long. They comment on how the years flew by while they were busy trying to find a decent job in Korean society. Sung-woo guesses it's been a year or two since they last saw each other, but Soohyuk's perception is very different. If he includes his past life before regression, it's been half a decade since he sat like this with Sung-woo. Sung-woo laughs and says that after 30, life passes too quickly, without us noticing the changes. The restaurant is full of people eating and talking, a scene of normality that Soohyuk now values more than ever before. His friend comments that he's becoming famous on the internet, being called Spider Firefighter for his incredible jump off the building. Soohyuk gets embarrassed and asks if he really saw the video that's going viral on all social media. "Of course, I saw it! My heart almost jumped out of my mouth watching that. You've become a living legend!" His friend jokes that he was born to be a firefighter, but Soohyuk makes a face and pretends to be annoyed by the compliment. Suddenly, the tone of the conversation changes, and Sung-woo looks at him with a sincerity that cuts through all the joking. "I was so scared you'd get seriously hurt. You have no idea how terrified I was." He asks Soohyuk to think about the people who care about him before throwing himself into absurd dangers. Soohyuk realizes that he is not just a solitary hero on the battlefield, but someone with roots and ties. He understands that his death would bring eternal pain to his family and friends, and decides he will be more careful. But Kim Soohyuk barely knows that fate will soon put his new oath to the test in the cruelest way possible. His friend insists he stay the night, yelling, "Go home safely! I told you to sleep here because you live far away." Soohyuk just smiles back as Sung-woo approaches for one last tease. He points at his friend and blurts out, "You! It looks like you'll be bald soon. Take care, I'm seeing the signs." Sung-woo explodes with anger at the joke about his impending baldness and tries to lunge at the hero. Soohyuk runs away laughing, shouting that he had already warned him about the hair danger. The following week becomes a blur of endless shifts and heavy work at the station. During this time, he completes about 10 minor missions and, without realizing it, reaches level 12. The system shines before his eyes, announcing that his hazard detection and life detection skills have risen to level 2. His physical capacity improves so much that 40-kilogram equipment now feels as light as feathers. He follows the veteran's orders with almost robotic perfection, with no room for the slightest error. In his mind, the old failure is dead, buried forever under the ashes of the past. There is no longer the loser Kim Soohyuk, the one everyone knew before. The next day, Soohyuk runs through the city streets with inhuman, almost supernatural speed. Inside a bus, passengers gape as they watch him keep pace with the vehicle on foot, a moving blur. He crosses pedestrians like a lightning bolt, his goal fixed, to get to work. The Sinil fire station appears on the horizon as he maintains his relentless pace. Upon entering the room, Soohyuk greets his colleagues with a vigor that startles, almost shocking. One of the firefighters jokes, "Look, our monster rookie has arrived. I heard you did great again yesterday." He scratches his head, embarrassed, trying to act as if nothing was special, as if it was nothing. The others laugh, but a strange, almost icy atmosphere hangs in the air among the veterans. Soohyuk notices that Jung-woo still treats him as if he's invisible, and a pang of pain pierces his chest. Suddenly, a colleague calls him aside for a serious question, his brow furrowed. The man stares at Soohyuk and demands to know what's the secret behind such incredible skill. He insists that a rookie couldn't possibly be that good, and that the young man is, in fact, very suspicious. Between nervous laughs, the veteran asks, "Is it psychic power, or did you get bitten by radioactive ants on the street?" He quickly relaxes his tone, claiming it's just a joke, and tells Soohyuk to take his post. Soohyuk watches the veteran's back as a distant memory returns. They hadn't worked together for long in his past life. He remembers that Kang-shik had to retire from the front lines due to a terrible injury. The system shows the parking lot mission completed, but Soohyuk's mind is already somewhere else. Without his powers, he never would have saved that child trapped in the trunk. Soohyuk knows the future holds even greater disasters, and so he begins to frantically jot down everything he remembers, compulsively. The darkest memory returns, like a nightmare. Soon, a massive forest fire will destroy everything. It was in that disaster that Kang-shik became incapacitated, and Soohyuk swears that this time, he will prevent it. The problem is that the exact date the hell began remains a blur. Song-tae surprises him in the office, noticing his face etched with tension, almost terror. The veteran asks if he's having some kind of bad premonition about what's to come. Soohyuk tries to hide his nervousness with a forced laugh, assuring him it's nothing. He comments on the good weather, but the cold sweat on his face betrays the lie. Another firefighter joins the conversation, wanting to know what subject is hanging in the air. They joke about Soohyuk's supposed powers, but the hero is on another planet, lost in his thoughts. He thinks that if he reveals the forest fire now, he'll undoubtedly be committed to a mental asylum. The veterans hope for a calm day, without too many emergency calls. Soohyuk despairs, trying to recall the date, as he hears they've already been out 5 times that morning. Fortunately, there were no deaths in the recent calls, which brings momentary relief to everyone. One of the men admits that lives were saved only by Soohyuk's unbelievable performance. They whisper that the rookie is the only reason they've been so busy lately. The veteran confesses that Soohyuk seems far more experienced than anyone else there. They wonder what on earth this kid was doing before becoming a firefighter. When they look at his resume, they only find normal information, nothing outstanding. The only different fact is that he grew up in an orphanage after losing his parents early. Other than that, his life seems too ordinary for someone with such surreal abilities. The veteran suspects the young man is hiding something, preparing for a major event. The conversation shifts to vacations and the accumulated fatigue of the rescue unit. Kang-shik mentions that his daughter's birthday is coming up, and he can't forget it. His colleagues tell him to enjoy his family and let them handle the heavy work. In that instant, a light ignites in Soohyuk's mind. He asks for the exact date of the girl's birth. Silence fills the room as the rookie stares at the veteran with wide, almost insane eyes. He repeats the question with urgency, desperate to know the birthday. Kangshik is confused by the sudden interest and asks the reason for such curiosity. The atmosphere grows heavy, and the veteran questions if there's something wrong with that date. Soohyuk realizes he spoke too loudly and tries to backtrack before raising more suspicions. He quickly invents a lie, saying he just wanted to buy a gift for the little girl. The veterans exchange suspicious glances, not understanding the rookie's erratic behavior. Kangshik sighs and asks why he's acting so strange again. The mood relaxes as the veteran smiles, saying he's touched by the kindness. He praises Soohyuk, saying the kid has been behaving well and hasn't caused any accidents. Kangshik proudly shows off his daughter's photo, unaware that danger is knocking at the door. Soohyuk finally remembers the day of the Great Forest Fire was exactly today. The cruel coincidence hits him like a punch to the gut. The disaster happened on his mentor's daughter's birthday. He stands paralyzed, seeing the silhouette of the fire in his mind as the room darkens around him. Time passes, and the fateful day begins to dawn, silently and somberly. The alarm clock rings at 6 in the morning, but Soohyuk is already awake, waiting for the signal. He sits on the edge of the bed and whispers, "It's finally here." Soohyuk walks to the fire station under the cold light of dawn, ready for the war that looms. He enters the yard and sees the trucks ready, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. A colleague greets him, surprised to see him working so hard so early. Hero focuses on the map of Joyeonsan Mountain, tracing the fastest escape routes. He studies every trail leading to the camp, memorizing the terrain with surgical precision. The clock on the wall ticks relentlessly, each second bringing the world closer to imminent chaos. Suddenly, the hand reaches the critical moment, and the silence is brutally torn. The fire alarm explodes through the fire station's loudspeakers with a deafening sound, piercing the air. The firefighters leap from their chairs as the fire alert echoes through all the corridors, creating panic. Soohyuk clenches his fists. The nightmare he tried to avoid has finally begun. He runs to the changing rooms, shouting that hell is starting right now. The system activates a new mission: save as many people as possible before it's too late. The orders are clear. Everyone must get into the trucks immediately for deployment. The sirens begin to wail, and the vehicles leave the yard at high speed. Over the radio, dispatch reports that the fire on Joyeonsan is gigantic and completely out of control. Soohyuk asks how many victims have already been identified at the disaster site. The answer chills everyone's blood. There are at least 32 people trapped in the flames. The number of victims is absurd because of the new campsite opened the previous year. He points on the map to an alternative trail that might be the group's only salvation. The veteran warns that entering there now will be almost impossible due to the fire's intensity. Soohyuk insists that following that road is the fastest path to rescue. The colleague looks at him strangely, thinking the boy seems to know too much about the fire. The vehicles cut through the night with their red lights, racing against death's clock. The rescue convoy looks like a serpent of fire crossing the dark road. In the distance, they see trucks from all departments in the region mobilized, a fleet against hell. Soohyuk gets out of the vehicle and feels the heat coming from the mountain even before seeing the fire. He faces the forest and knows that planning time is over. Now it's pure, brutal action. The veteran whispers in horror that he has never seen a forest fire of that magnitude. The flames rise to the heavens, transforming the night into an orange, deadly day. Centuries-old trees collapse like kindling under the destructive power of the element. The black smoke swallows visibility, making breathing a challenge for any human. 3 firefighters observe the destruction, feeling small before nature's fury. Someone comments that the situation is insane, and fear begins to spread through the team, like a disease. Soohyuk grabs an axe, and his eyes gleam with cold, sharp determination. He shouts for everyone to stay focused, and not to let panic take over. Command orders everyone to get the necessary equipment and gather for the assault. The group forms at the base of the mountain, waiting for coordinates to enter the forest. He calls for Sangtae, but his mind has already decided. He cannot wait for orders. While the others organize themselves, Soohyuk silently moves away towards the danger. He whispers a mental apology to his teammates. Soohyuk knows that if he doesn't act on his own, dozens of people will die carbonized. He plunges into the darkness of the forest, where the only light comes from the devouring flames. The heat increases with each step, but he doesn't slow the pace of his desperate run. He leaps over fallen logs, moving with the agility of a predator. The hero knows that knowledge of the future is his greatest weapon and his greatest curse. He asserts to himself that nothing is more valuable than a human life, and he pushes forward. The fire roars around him, trying to encircle him in a trap of deadly embers. Soohyuk pauses for a second to assess the wind's direction, and the flames advance. He curses as he sees that the fire has already blocked the main route, a wall of flames. The blazes lick at the treetops, creating an impassable barrier of heat. He identifies the shortest shortcut, knowing that any delay will guarantee the victims' deaths. For a brief moment, doubt crosses his face. Can he really do this alone? The answer comes in an internal scream of denial as he clenches his teeth tightly. Soohyuk unleashes a jet of water to open a temporary path through the flames. He runs through the curtain of steam and smoke, ignoring the searing pain in his lungs. Every fiber of his body demands he stop, but the will to save lives speaks louder. He makes a final effort and plunges directly into the heart of the wildfire. The ground beneath his feet is hot enough to melt the soles of his boots. He ducks to avoid the toxic smoke, moving with extreme caution now. Suddenly, the system flashes red. Hazard detection level 2 has been activated. The world seems to slow down as he perceives an imminent collapse. He grunts with effort as he dodges a giant tree exploding in flames. At the base camp, Sangtae realizes the rookie is gone and panics. He shouts, asking how long it's been since anyone saw Soohyuk in the formation line. Another firefighter admits he vanished as soon as they arrived at the fire scene. The team leader orders Team 3 to prepare for an immediate search. Kang-shik and Jung-woo are ordered to find the rookie before he dies in the wilderness. The official rescue mission begins as tension rises to the maximum among the men. Jung-woo curses Soohyuk, furious at the young man's recklessness, always breaking the rules. He wonders where that idiot went and what he intends to do alone. Soohyuk is panting, feeling the oxygen dwindle amidst the superheated air. He collapses to the ground to catch his breath, his face covered in soot and sweat. Looking back, he sees the trail of destruction and knows he narrowly escaped death. If not for the system's warning, he would have been crushed by that flaming log. He realizes that as he levels up, he can better understand the details of the dangers around him. But he remembers that, despite his abilities, he is still just a human being. The hero orders himself not to lose focus, for one mistake now will be the end. He knows there will be no second chance if he fails in the middle of this inferno. Soohyuk cautiously advances again, hearing the constant crackle of burning wood. A new danger signal appears on the system's radar, freezing him in place. The detected danger alert screams in his mind, signaling threats from all sides. He takes a deep breath, trying to control the pounding heartbeat in his chest. Soohyuk looks around, but the smoke is so dense he can barely see his own hand. He feels he's close to the camp, but the terrain has completely changed with the fire. He curses as he realizes he's losing his sense of direction in the forest. Tall flames prevent him from recognizing any reference points on his mental map. The heat is so intense he feels his skin beginning to burn through his special suit. Gasping, he pauses for a second to make a desperate decision. He decides to use his main ability again to find the right path. Life detection level 2 is activated, sending a pulse of green energy through the woods. An invisible sound wave sweeps the terrain in search of any sign of a heartbeat. He closes his eyes, focusing only on the signal the system will return. Several glowing dots begin to appear on his mental radar, indicating the survivors. He points his axe in the correct direction and starts running again with all his might. Soohyuk lets out a cry of relief as he spots the group through the smokescreen. "I found you!" He reaches the civilians, huddled in a clearing, completely surrounded by fire. The relief on those people's faces upon seeing a firefighter is something he'll never forget. The group is exhausted, covered in ash, and on the verge of total physical collapse. A man in a hat stumbles closer, his voice failing as he pleads for help. He asks if they can just stop for a moment to rest, as no one can endure any longer. Soohyuk remains silent, assessing the extreme exhaustion etched onto the face of everyone there. He knows time is urgent, and the fire is closing in rapidly, but, seeing they have no strength left to run, he grants them a brief pause. He observes the burning horizon and thinks this evacuation will be the toughest battle of his life. With the map in hand, he points to the red markings, where the fire has already devoured all possible descent routes. The veteran asks about the extent of the flames, and if their call for reinforcements has finally been answered by dispatch. The answer is a terrifying silence, as all phones and radios are completely dead in that inferno. Sweat pours down his face as he calculates. The fire will reach their position in less than 3 hours. 3 hours is a luxury they simply don't have, and despair begins to gleam in the eyes of every survivor. He tries to plot a desperate route on the map, searching for the trace of a small stream that might be their last hope. He explains that, although it's not a deep valley, the water and gravel might prevent the fire from spreading and stave off dehydration. The other firefighters agree that this seems to be the only sensible choice left to keep those people alive. A commanding shout echoes through the clearing, warning everyone that it's time to move or burn. They begin their march, praying to reach safety, but something suddenly interrupts the group's advance. Everyone freezes as a figure emerges from the dense smoke, as if a ghost rising from the fire. Amidst the soot, a firm, determined voice cuts through the air. "I finally found you." The rescue team and civilians are paralyzed, incredulous, unable to understand how someone could have reached them alone. One of the firefighters raises a hand, asking the group to wait as he tries to process the image of the stranger. The shock is palpable, and the heavy silence is only broken by the crackle of burning wood around them. Kim Soohyuk removes part of his protective gear and faces the survivors with a gaze that carries the weight of 1,000 battles. The rescuer asks, incredulously, who he is and how he managed to cross that death zone unaided. Soohyuk formally introduces himself as a member of Shinil Seo's Rescue Team 3, leaving everyone in shock at his audacity. A man in glasses raises his head, renewed hope in his eyes, asking if reinforcements have finally arrived to get them out. The veteran firefighter looks past Soohyuk and questions where the other members of the support team are. Soohyuk doesn't hesitate and drops the bitter truth. For now, he's the only one who managed to break through the fire blockade. Confusion overtakes the veteran's face, who lets out a frustrated sigh, unable to understand how a rookie is there alone. Soohyuk cuts to the chase and asks if these 32 people are all the remaining rescue targets. An elder confirms that, including the Buddhist monks and local residents, the total number is exactly 32. Soohyuk nods, feeling momentary relief at having found everyone before the worst could happen. He takes command, his voice full of natural authority. "From now on, follow me closely." The veteran firefighter tries to stop him, questioning where he thinks he's going, as the plan was to follow the stream. He insists that the original plan of following the water flow is the only way to avoid being engulfed by the flames. Soohyuk stops and replies dryly and absolutely. They cannot, under any circumstances, take that path. His denial is so strong, it makes the veteran take a step back, feeling the tension rise between them. The rescuer demands to know the reason behind a decision that seems to go against all basic survival training. Soohyuk explains that if they look closely at the map, they'll realize that location is, in fact, a geographical basin. The veteran's eyes widen in a shock of realization as he understands the deadly danger he almost overlooked. He realizes that if they had gone there, they would have been surrounded and cooked alive with no chance of escaping that hole. The realization of the near-fatal error sends shivers down the firefighter's spine as he processes the gravity of the situation. He admits he sees the danger now, but remembers that moments before he thought the water would protect them from the fire's advance. Soohyuk imparts a valuable lesson. Fire isn't the only thing that kills people in wildfires of this magnitude. The veteran finally understands what he means and the invisible danger the basin poses to all of them. He's impressed, admitting to himself that even he, with years of experience, hadn't noticed that geographical trap. He observes Soohyuk from head to toe, wondering how a rookie could possess such sharp and precise instincts. Thanks to Soohyuk's intervention, the group of civilians was saved from walking straight into a certain death sentence. But doubt still hangs in the air as they look at the flames and ask where they should go now. The group of civilians starts to murmur, fear growing as the heat intensifies and visibility plummets. Soohyuk firmly assures them that if they follow the path he's laid out, everyone will make it out of that mountain alive. The veteran looks in the direction Soohyuk is pointing and turns pale with terror at what lies ahead. He screams, asking if Soohyuk has gone completely insane for suggesting a route that looks like pure suicide. The sight of the fire destroying everything ahead is terrifying, as if the forest itself is screaming in agony. He questions if Soohyuk is truly asking them to walk straight into that blazing inferno. The firefighters' feet waver on the ash-covered ground, uncertain about their next step in this dance with death. The veteran explodes, saying he can't trust a stranger, claiming he knows this region like the back of his hand. He yells that there are only trees and tall grass around, meaning they'll be engulfed by the flames in seconds. Soohyuk stares at the man and asks if he truly believes he would make such a request without being fully prepared. The veteran hesitates, arguing that the area isn't even part of Soohyuk's jurisdiction, but the hero's gaze silences him. He perceives the unwavering confidence in Soohyuk's eyes, feeling that this firefighter would never speak nonsense in a life-or-death situation. With no other viable option and the fire closing in, he decides the only way out is to trust the rookie. He warns that there's no other way right now and puts all his chips on Soohyuk's words, but he leaves a dark warning hanging in the air, a promise echoing among the trees, crackling with intense heat. He states that if anything goes wrong and people get hurt, he himself will ensure Soohyuk pays a heavy price. Soohyuk doesn't flinch and starts carrying one of the survivors, showing he's ready for the heavy lifting. He replies with a confident smile from behind his mask. "Absolutely, especially since I don't plan on dying here today." He encourages the group, saying their destination isn't far and that it only takes a little more effort. Snow falls silently on the trees, creating a bizarre contrast with the orange glow consuming the horizon. The line of survivors painfully advances up the slope, each step a battle against exhaustion and panic. Soohyuk leads the way with seemingly superhuman physical strength, carrying the weight of a life on his back. Suddenly, the firefighter following him notices something strange on the ground and asks what that is ahead. The sound of footsteps on the soft snow is the only thing heard as they approach a specific location. The man in the hat widens his eyes, seeing something that shouldn't be there in the middle of the dense forest. Soohyuk murmurs to himself that he's certain the exact spot is right in front of them. He vividly remembers that, in his past life, many people who fled the camp died of suffocation there. He feels the fatigue setting in and remembers that, despite the system and levels, he still inhabits a human body. He knows he can't save 32 people with just the raw strength of his arms and legs. His objective, all along, was to find the strategic point he himself prepared before the disaster broke out. He stops for a second, smells the smoke, and smiles as he realizes the spot is right beneath their feet. The sound of something being rummaged draws everyone's attention, generating a wave of curiosity and apprehension. The other firefighters approach, asking what on earth he's doing standing in that empty spot. Soohyuk assures everyone that if they stay exactly there, the fire won't be able to lethally touch them. He explains that the terrain was recently leveled, creating a natural barrier against the spread of flames. He reveals that he discovered they planned to build an inn there, and that information was key to the plan. He pretends he found this out through meticulous investigation, hiding the fact that it's a secret from the future. The veteran asks if the smoke won't reach them, and Soohyuk asks for help to start digging the ground right now. Shock is general as Soohyuk starts plunging the shovel into the earth with desperate fury, making soil fly. He yells for the others to stop staring and grab shovels to help, promising to explain everything later. The other firefighter questions why they're digging in the middle of a fire, but Soohyuk urgently grabs him by the arm. He decides to yield to the rookie's command, sensing there's something much bigger behind that strange attitude. They dig as if their lives depend on it, while the fire roars closer and closer to the improvised clearing. The metallic clang of shovels hitting the earth echoes through the mountain, a frantic rhythm of pure survival. Soohyuk hits something solid at the bottom of the hole, and his eyes gleam with the certainty of absolute success. The veteran looks at what was discovered and is left completely speechless by what he's seeing. Soohyuk pulls away a heavy tarp with a sudden movement, revealing the secret he had hidden there. Beneath the earth, dozens of boxes emerge, containing protective equipment and oxygen for everyone. Soohyuk stands up and orders everyone to form an organized line to receive the safety items. The veteran can barely believe Soohyuk prepared all of that by himself, even before the fire started. A trembling hand of a civilian reaches for one of the masks, Feeling as if life has finally returned to their grasp, a father and his young son thank the firefighter with tears in their eyes, seeing a true guardian angel in him. The little boy says it's so good to have a firefighter around, and his father agrees, his heart overflowing with gratitude. Soohyuk watches the group equipping themselves, feeling that the first part of his plan has been executed flawlessly. He knows that with those masks, they will be able to hold out until the heavy rescue team arrives. He thinks of the money he spent buying all of it in secret, but smiles, knowing every single penny was worth it. But his work isn't over yet, as he knows there are still more lives trapped higher up the mountain. As he turns to leave, one of the firefighters grabs him, asking where he thinks he's going now. Soohyuk replies that now that this group is safe, he needs to go after those still lost at the summit. The veteran firefighter claps him on the shoulder and says he has truly become a hero in everyone's eyes there. He decides he won't let Soohyuk go alone this time and announces he will accompany him on the mission. Soohyuk tenses, knowing that having company could make it harder to use his system abilities. He tries to argue that the veteran is needed there to protect the civilians, but the man doesn't accept the excuse. The firefighter assures him that his colleagues will handle things and that Soohyuk needs a real partner now. He praises Soohyuk's sharp senses, acknowledging that despite being a rookie, the kid is special. He insists that going together is much better than a solitary suicide mission and tells Soohyuk to lead the way. Soohyuk hesitates for an instant, feeling the weight of responsibility of having a veteran observing his every step. He wonders what he should do to keep his secret while fulfilling his duty to save people. Finally, he accepts the company but makes it clear he won't slow down for anyone to keep up. The veteran lets out a short laugh and tells him not to worry, as he prides himself on his physical stamina. They plunge back into the burning forest, leaving the safety of the clearing behind. The command shouts for the other firefighters to hurry, as time is the most relentless enemy they face. The young firefighter asks if Sang Tae-hyung will be okay, seeing the fire spreading with terrifying speed. Sang Tae replies that even if he's not okay, a firefighter never just stands by and watches disaster unfold. They race against the clock, knowing that every lost second could mean one less life saved at the end of the day. In the background, the veteran makes an ironic comment, remembering he thought he'd be home early that day. Soohyuk dashes ahead like an arrow, ignoring the obstacles and the heat that tries to hinder his advance. He murmurs an apology to his daughter, knowing duty calls him away from her birthday. Sang Tae is breathless behind him, shocked by the speed the young man can maintain on such steep terrain. He notices that Soohyuk carries heavy equipment and yet runs as if he bears no weight at all. The veteran admits he's never felt so exhausted in his entire career as a rescue firefighter. Lee Kang-hyun, the veteran, decides he will risk everything today not to fall behind the prodigy. He pauses for a second, noticing a strange sign in the woods, but quickly refocuses on Soohyuk's silhouette. He catches up to the young man and asks, between heavy breaths, if he has detected any sign of life yet. Soohyuk comments that the veteran is keeping pace much better than he expected for someone his age. He suggests a short break for the veteran to catch his breath before they face the final climb to the peak. The man leans on his knees, desperately trying to pull the hot air into his tired lungs. Soohyuk thinks he tried to leave him behind on purpose, but admits that having someone around might be useful. He knows that Sang Tae-hyung won't hinder the mission if he can maintain focus on the main objective. Sang Tae drinks water eagerly and asks if Soohyuk's incredible stamina is a natural gift or a result of training. Soohyuk humbly deflects, merely saying he exercises a lot and maintains a rigorous training routine. He announces it's time to continue, and the veteran grumbles about being bossed around by someone much younger than him. As they resume the ascent, Sang Tae demands to know exactly where Soohyuk is leading them in this inferno. Soohyuk reveals that there are people isolated precisely at the mountain's peak, where the fire is most intense. The veteran finds it strange, saying he hadn't received any reports about casualties at that specific location. Soohyuk looks ahead with a grim gaze and says it's obvious there would be no official report. He admits to himself that he knows this because it's a painful memory from his past life that he never forgot. That memory is seared into his mind, being the main reason for his return to the past. He knows that cruel fate is waiting for them up there, ready to repeat the same tragedy. It's on that peak that his mentor, Kang Shik-hyung, suffered the accident that destroyed his career and his life. Sangtae remarks that the mission will be incredibly difficult, but Soohyuk replies that they have no choice but to continue. The veteran explains that his concern isn't about their strength, but about the logistics of bringing so many people back. Soohyuk falls silent for a moment, processing the weight of his partner's words as he watches the flames. With absolute calm, he announces that the time has come to finally call for official backup via radio. Sangtae is left bewildered, recalling that communication was cut off and the radios weren't working. He discovers that Soohyuk had kept the walkie-talkie off the entire time and explodes in fury, demanding to know why. Soohyuk tries to justify himself, saying he had a reason, but Sangtae-hyung is already turning on the device with trembling hands. As soon as the radio crackles, the furious voice of veteran Sangtae from the other side screams Soohyuk's name with all his might. He demands to know Soohyuk's exact location and why he disappeared without a word for so long. Soohyuk pulls the radio away from his ear, commenting that he knew he'd get a monumental scolding as soon as he turned it on. He ignores the shouts and reports that there are survivors at the mountain's peak and they need immediate backup. He asks his superior to calm down and save the lecture for later, focusing only on the urgency of the rescue right now. The sound of irritation from the other end of the radio is clear, but Soohyuk knows the message was successfully delivered. There's a brief moment of silence on the line as Central Command processes the unexpected information they've received. Soohyuk reiterates that they don't know the exact position yet, but the rendezvous point should be near the summit. The veteran finally relents and confirms they are on their way, ordering Soohyuk to wait for them at the location. Soohyuk also relays the coordinates of the group of civilians he left in the cleared glade moments earlier. He explains that they are protected by equipment and asks for a medical team to be sent to pick them up as soon as possible. At the end of the transmission, Soohyuk apologizes for acting on his own and abandoning the team's formation. The superior takes a long pause and responds with a softer tone, simply telling him not to get hurt. Soohyuk responds with a firm yes, feeling that the weight of his disobedience was slightly eased by his success. Sangtae looks at him and asks if he really abandoned the entire team to come save these people alone. Soohyuk lets out a nervous chuckle and tries to deflect from his madness, knowing it was an absurd risk. He says he'll explain the details later, but for now, the absolute priority is helping those trapped at the top. Sangtae shakes his head and concludes that Soohyuk is the craziest man he's ever met in his entire life. Soohyuk laughs at the remark and says he can think whatever he wants, as long as they keep moving further up the mountain. They resume their frantic climb, passing through areas where the fire has already begun to create impassable walls of heat. The atmosphere changes drastically as they near the peak, and Soohyuk feels that disaster is about to strike. He notices that the fire has spread in unexpected directions and that the situation is about to become a gigantic problem. He remains silent for a long time, observing the erratic behavior of the flames around the two of them. He asks if Sangtae knows the famous Heinrich's Law, the theory that explains the origin of major global disasters. Soohyuk explains that major accidents don't just happen out of nowhere, but rather after a long succession of ignored small incidents. He looks at the blazing horizon and issues the final warning. This fire might just be the root of something much worse to come. Kim Soohyuk challenges fate to save his mentor, but the fire is just the tip of an iceberg of chaos. What comes next could shatter the timeline for good. Want to know what happens? Comment below